Hello and welcome to the Lead Generation Strategies podcast. This is your host, Joey Myers of Lead Generation SEO Services.com. And today with me is Mr. Joe, and is it Houghton?
Houghton.
Houghton. That's the Minnesota version.
Yes.
Yeah, Houghton. All right. So I have Joe on with me, and I'm going to let him give a little bit of his background and what his company. He does a lot of stuff up there in Minnesota, the Minnesota lands. So first, I want to welcome you to the show, Joe. We got two Joes on.
Thanks for having me.
And talk a little bit about what you guys do, all the stuff you guys do. You guys do a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah. So I lately have been thinking myself more as a solopreneur. I like to stay busy, and I like to do it all. Have a hard time delegating, and but I also like to be the kind of person that I like to hire. And I really can't stand it when people cold call me. I really don't like the salesy people. I just, spam emails. I just can't stand all of that. So I have a hard time. I kind of buck the system, or buck the trends as far as what they train real estate agents and, marketers to do. So I am a lot more focused on being the sole point of contact for my clients, but I also never stop moving. So I end up flipping houses, and I'm a real estate investor. I've been dabbling in the crypto spaces and investing in, I enjoy learning, and I love learning about new things and staying current. And when I have a client that's into something, I end up learning, from them. So the stock market is fun for me to just dabble in, and end up really doing a lot of different things. But real estate is my, passion, what I did right out of college. I've been doing it ever since. So 20 years, graduated from St. John's University in Minnesota. And I taught tennis was at a country club for 3 years through college. And then right after that, I just went right after residential real estate. So an investor, that's why I started getting into real estate. And then I sold my mom's house, and I just really loved it, fell in love with it right away. So I thought, I can do both of these at the same time. They really complement each other. And along the way, I've learned a lot of things. I got my builder's license in 2016. So I'm a licensed home builder, general contractor. I've got my appraisal trainee certificates and, licensed or a certified home inspector. Just try to learn. That's really it. I don't do home inspections. I don't do appraisals, but I use the knowledge that I've gained through that to help add value to my clients. So it's really about how can I be better than my competition,
Right. No, I think that's smart. And I think, and I'm the same way. And I don't know if it's just the Joey thing, but you tend to have that passionate curiosity, and it'll take you down different rabbit holes. And those rabbit holes sometimes could be really fruitful. And sometimes, you get down it halfway through it and you're like, maybe this isn't the thing. But I think in the real estate world is such a broad and complex world. And we'll talk about maybe a couple things before we get into like the marketing stuff with the current trends that are going on. But it helps to have somebody that has your back, whether they're finding your home or buying, you're finding to buy a home, or trying to sell your home, or build your home, or anything like that. But having somebody there that has gone down those different rabbit holes and can tell you a little bit better see what is coming down the pike that might be an issue. Right. So yeah, thanks for sharing, Joe. And what I like to ask my real estate people is, with the current rate hikes, I always like to get the advice or the opinion of what you think, because you guys are dabbling in a lot of different things, not even dabbling, but full on. So what do you see in the realtor side, building side? What do you guys see in there in Minnesota with the rate hikes?
Your purchasing power just it shrinks, quite frankly, for every interest rate. One full point, about 10% of the purchase price of the property is equivalent payments. So if I was looking for a house for $500,000 and the interest rate goes up 1%, now that same payment, $450 is the same payment as if I had a mortgage for $500. So for every point that goes up, it's a big deal. It depends. A lot of different buyers look at it differently. Some want to rush in because they think it's going to go up even more and more. Some people that don't own, that's their mindset. But now if you own a place and you have a 2.5% interest rate, it's hard to let that place go.
Mm-hmm.
But what I've always coached my clients to think about is all of the different potential future life changes. So the clients I worked with in 02, 03, when I was helping them, thankfully, I never told them the market's always going to go up or the market has never gone down over any 10-year period, because things change, right? So they had an exit strategy, or I encouraged them to have an exit strategy, whether that's to rent it after they buy. So a lot of first-time home buyers, if you can buy a house, get in for 3% down or 0% down, and you decide to move, if you can hold on to that house and rent it, that is one strategy for long-term, slow wealth building. And that's how I've always looked at it. So I've always wanted to own my houses that I've lived in. So I'm still going after my childhood home. Every time I'm in the area, I drive by, see if they're out there. Hey, you want to sell yet? You know, the home that my grandma owned and we spent so much time in. I want to buy that. I want to just, I'm kind of strange that way. I have these memories and I want to go back and revisit them. So, you know, I think my passion for real estate, I come by it honestly, but the interest rate thing affects different people in all sorts of ways, but it's your purchasing power is really the big one. So if you have investment property and you're locked in at 3.5%, you're loving yourself right now, you know?
Yeah. It makes you look like a smart person.
Yeah. And they'll go up and then they'll come down and they'll go up again. I mean, things are going to constantly be changing, but I always hear people talk about, oh, back when I owned my first house in 72, it was a 12% interest rate. And we thought that was good. Well, yeah, but the prices were also, you know, 30 grand for a house. So they work kind of hand in hand. So
it's relative in time. Right.
Exactly.
Now what you guys is, what's your unique, what is the uniqueness? What's your company's superpower, or maybe not even the company? Cause I know you guys do a lot of things, but what's your you know, maybe secret ingredient or just that superpower in your company that you guys really try and cultivate?
Yeah, for me, it's being the sole point of contact. So I'm a listing specialist. When somebody calls me, they usually want advice on how to maximize their bottom line, how to put as much money in their pocket as they can. But they don't want the people that find me online. Typically, they don't want the stereotypical real estate salesperson, the one that's going to tell them what they want to hear, get them all hyped up, and you know, be the full service, full price best agent. Everybody's the best agent. I don't know how many number one agents are advertised, you know, on billboards in our state, but I just that kind of deceptive marketing drives me nuts. Now I get it with the algorithms and with SEO, you know, putting best and putting number one, it does help boost you up there. So I'm guilty of that sometimes too. And that's relative, but you know, really when people read research, read my reviews, it's over and over again. It's, you know, honest, always reachable, fair, good value. I don't give people the advice that is going to make my life easier or help me sell their home quicker so I get paid with doing little. I give them advice like they're my own mother, like they're my sister, like, you know, just I treat people the way I want to be treated. And I'm a savvy consumer. When I go to buy a car, I research everything. I mean, I'm reading so much about different strategies and how to negotiate and what to look out for, how to protect yourself, who to do business with, why and why not, and how can you save money. And so that's just what I try to pass on to my clients. And I'd say that's the superpower, is pretty basic and honest. It's like they're gonna get what the service from me that they read about. I'm over and over again. It's just honest, reachable, you know, really helped me. I like to help people weigh the pros and the cons and just spell it out to them. I can't tell them what they should do, but I can tell them the pros of taking this strategy and the pitfalls of taking this strategy, and bring some different strategy options to them. So I let my clients really, I try to empower them to make the best decision for themselves. Period. Right. And that's like my goal.
You're making recommendations. They make the decisions.
Yeah. Using my experience to really let them learn from me, and not, you know, making anybody feel like they've got to transact because I've spent so many hours. I just don't look at it from a dollar standpoint. And I think that's what's so different and refreshing. At least when I work with somebody, boy, when I find that person that does that, and then they are also in that top, you know, that sweet spot for pricing. I'm never going to be free, but I'm never going to be the most expensive, even though everybody tells me you should.
Mm-hmm.
I can't, I won't. It's just not being true to myself. And I just, it's not right to me.
Right. Yeah. And if people go on your website, which is over at, and I'll let you kind of get into this a little bit more.
Yeah.
But over at MN for Minnesota propertygroup.com. And if they just put in just the about and just kind of read about you, I mean, you've got a lot of accolades that on the sales side, high salesmanship in the real estate world. So you mentioned on the seller's side of things. So, when your big thing is the listing, is getting the optimum value of the listing. So can you go into maybe the top 2 things that you recommend to sellers?
Yeah.
And you don't have to go into all of them, because I know you got probably some proprietary stuff that you probably do, but maybe the top 2 things for sellers or, other selling agents, maybe as an advice.
Yeah. So for sellers, hiring the right agent is the first place to start. But what is the right agent? And, it's different for everybody, but what that agent tells you they're going to do and what they actually do can be 2 different things. So many of these agents that they really are good at making the world think that they do a ton of different things and that they spend. And because you hire them, you're going to net so much more money, and because of who they know and the clients they have. And, when you're in the business, you realize how much of that is fake for the most part, or really just embellished. And they focus on things that might they think or do impress a seller, but then being an insider, that's kind of fake. It's really frustrating. So trying to help people see through that and know that you really have to take another step when you're researching agents and really find out, when you Google their name, what do you find? Because an agent might tell you they've sold 10 homes in your neighborhood in the last year, and you look them up and they have not sold one. So doing your research and then comparing agents side by side. And, I think the biggest thing you can do to get your house ready is to make it look like a model home. There's a lot of different things that go into preparing your home, but the biggest mistake a home seller makes is they call agents and they ask for a comparative market analysis. And those agents they know they're being interviewed to sell the home. And so they also know the seller wants, to hear what they think their home is worth. And the seller looks at that and they choose an agent based on, if their price aligns with the price they have in their head. And then they can really leave a lot of money on the table by pricing their home poorly, whether it's too high or too low. Usually they hire the agent that tells them what they want to hear and, really talks the property up and doesn't go around and point out negatives. And then they end up hurting themselves in the long run. I get the call when, a home's been on the market for a year and a half and they reduce. And they say, Joe, it didn't work out with the last agent. What do you do differently? We've got to reset because you dug yourself a pretty big hole, and it's nothing we can't get over, but we have to do things usually quite a bit differently and then, go back on the market. So markets change. Anybody can win.
Go into that a little bit. So in that case, and that would be tough because it's not like you can just reset say if you said the home's been on the market for a year and a half. I mean, that's 360 plus 5+ days that it's been on the market. And you can't go on the MLS and just reset that number and say, oh, let's return back to 0, right? It's going to continue to show that. So if you put it back up again, you're going to see that, right? So what's the difference? Agents. Yeah. So what's the difference in marketing a property like that you're having to basically pick up the broken pieces versus a newer, fresh property that you're starting at 0?
Yeah. So I try to get the sellers to picture themselves as the buyer. And what's the buyer going to think when they click on and hit the history? A lot of buyers will see the history, but agents for sure will see the history. It's more built into the software that we use, but the buyer knows the history and they're going to ask why. And so why is that? Well, let's tell the story. And it's usually we started way too high in price, or we started too high. Market was different, bad timing, poor marketing, poor photos, certain things that improve. If you can make improvements to the property before you put it back on, that's a big thing. Give it a different look, not only a different agent, different company, different photos, different video, different virtual tour. If you don't have drone photos, if you don't have good property descriptions, if you're not optimized for each separate website, the Zillows and Homes.com and Realtor.com, all of those different websites, they just pull from one source. If you don't go into the back end and edit those and make those look native to that site or look the best optimized for that site, so they're showing up above your competition, those are things I get into. But to really reset and look different and explain, why didn't it sell for, that's the most common question. Well, if nobody else wanted it, why would I pay anything close to it? There's a lot of explanations for that, but give it a new look. Cut the trees down that are blocking the house from showing up in the photo. If a lot of people don't have a photo of the exterior first, and here in Minnesota, the first thought people have is, well, the outside must be terrible. Or people will have listings without inside pictures. Well, the buyer goes, well, the inside must be trashed. You gotta just have some common sense, but then you also have to put yourself in the buyer's shoes and say, what are these buyers going to be asking now? Sometimes they won't care about what was in the past, but they are usually going to ask, and you want to have some sort of explanation, whether it was, we refinished all the floors. We had really old carpet before we replaced the carpet. You can get a lot done to a house. And this is where my expertise really can help a lot of people with, the remodeling that I'm constantly, I always have a house going in one form of remodel or the other. I have one guy that works for me full time, and he's always at one of my houses doing work. So I'm plugged into, and I'm making these decisions as a seller, or am I going to sell this, rent it? Sometimes it's whatever comes first at the price I'm leaning towards. But getting that carpet, some people think it's going to be $10 a square foot for, maybe call it a 2,000 square foot house. Well, it's not going to cost 20,000. It could. There's plenty of people that'll charge you that and gladly take your money, but you're not going to get necessarily, the best carpet because you paid the most. It's really that's something I just can't emphasize enough. There's different companies running different promotions at different times. But if you take the big box store like a Home Depot and you go in and you get their contractor pricing because your agent's a contractor and knows the ins and outs, well, I just got my client $2 a square foot. That's with install. And that's the carpet I put in my last flip. I was hesitant to do it because I usually go with the 360, upgraded carpet. But this carpet looked and felt great. So I told him about it. I showed him my flip and he said, yep, I want that same color and let's do it. And $3,600 later, he had a bid for $8,500 from his friend, and wow. Same with painting. He had one bid for $27,000. I couldn't believe it. The next bid was $7,000. And, the low side of that, you're going to, my guys will probably come in there and do it for me. They're not going to work for him, but, $2,000, $2,200 to get the same stuff done. And so there's tricks of those, tricks of the trade, really.
Value in that and all the experience and expertise that you have. Yeah, no, again, I said that at the beginning, right? You kind of have you've gone down all these different rabbit holes and not just gone down them, but you've gotten certifications for them or, whatever contractor's licenses and things like that. So no, I think that's great to have somebody like yourself and your agents that are backing you, whether you're selling a house or buying. Now this wouldn't be the lead generation strategies podcast without talking a little bit of marketing.
You bet.
So how do clients typically find you, Joe? How do you market lead generation wise?
Yeah, so I played the long game on this, and I'm still nowhere near where I want to be. But I started learning about, search engine optimization 06, 07, and I slowly, it was slow and painful and learn. And I made so many hiring mistakes where I would hire companies that would do this for you. And oh my gosh, I think back to all the money I missed. But the icing on the cake, or I should say the straw that broke the camel's back, was a SEO company I hired and really committed to learning what they were doing. And once I knew enough to be dangerous, I realized what they were doing wasn't actually helping me. It was hurting me. And the tactics they were using and the metrics they were showing me, it was all designed for them to make and scale their business. I kind of get sick when I hear people talking about scaling their business sometimes, because I feel like many people scale their business in a way that's really bad for the end user, for the consumer. And why that's just bragged on and trained and taught, I guess, because the goal of so many people is to make as much money as they possibly can. And that's how our society might see success. And I just don't buy into that. And I believe wholeheartedly that if you do the right thing enough times for enough people, that's the money comes, right? Yes, we all have to feed our families, and that is a driver and was a driver for me early on. But at the end of the day, what I want the consumer to get what they believe they're going to get. So I really don't want them to be deceived. Mm-hmm. So online marketing and lead generation, it's a tricky balance, because you do have to do some things to show up on search engines that, I wouldn't write the way I do on my blog posts necessarily if it weren't because I know SEO and how to be found. You have to write a certain way, right? Well, so it's trying to balance that, because I could give the best advice and write the way I would talk maybe, or write the way I'd normally write, but I'd never get found online. So, I'm weighing those. Getting found online is to me, the best clients I have are personal referrals, friends and family. I enjoy it, and they don't have to question or wonder if I'm trustworthy. They know my background. They know, over and over again. So we don't have to do any of that. They can take what I say and believe it without taking what I say with a grain of salt. And then, they're kind of defeating they may hear what I'm saying and think I'm exaggerating, but in reality, I'm not. I'm giving honest advice. So the people that know that about me already, they're going to benefit from my services a lot more. And so the people that study and research and find me online and realize, oh yeah, he does do good video. He does do drone photos. He does add property descriptions. He did sell 8 homes in my neighborhood, or he is a relocation specialist, whatever it is. If they can find that, read about it, and then, trust and verify, it's like, it's so much more fun to work with a client like that. I just don't have the patience to deal with, somebody that comes at me like everybody else. If you've been screwed by other agents, I get it. Like, I wouldn't want to work with an agent ever again. Partially why I got into the business too. And I get that, but don't take it out on me. Yeah. I'd rather not, work with somebody that's just never going to trust, believe, or value what I have to do. So life's too short. And yeah.
Yeah, I hear you there. And when I was doing my baseball hitting site for a long time, we started to base our things off the science side of things. So biomechanics, physics, engineering. And that was kind of unheard of. The baseball and softball world have been in the dinosaur age for a long time. So when I come along, start talking about this kind of stuff, you get people that are dumping on you, like what you're saying, and they're dumping on me because of the other jokesters that have been gurus. Yeah. That have been doing stuff. Right. And it's interesting. And I did that whole SEO, the traditional thing. And I didn't hire anybody. I tried to really do it on my own, because at the time I had the time. I could do that. I could learn it. And it's good. It's okay. 4 to 6 months of traction or whatnot. But the thing was, and I fell into the same predicament. This was actually about a year or two ago when I came back to the SEO front, created the agency and things like that. Because what generally happens is they'll take keywords, they'll take 3-4 keyword combo, and they'll try and create an article or post using those keywords. So instead of just creating the article like you're talking about, great information, whether it's selling yourself, your services, or, just good information to help people, you're trying to fit an article around certain keywords. Well, the problem I was running into is on that hitting side, I have 300 plus blog articles, or it's probably close to 400 now. And so I wrote a lot of those really good articles and didn't really SEO them, or if I did, it was very general based keywords. Nobody's finding me. And so now we do a process where it's like 6 levels deep. So we take long tail, different combinations of those, fit it into a way that is readable and makes sense, but now people are finding me better. And so I totally get the pain on the SEO thing. And I had an interview with Jeremy Brandt, who's the We Buy Houses guy.
Yeah. I actually watched that. It was good.
Great. Oh, so you saw it. Yeah. So
really good.
Great. And he said, hey, you can't put all your eggs in one basket when it comes to marketing. You can't be all in SEO. Like you said, you've seen companies that have 1,000 leads in a month, and then they get dinged by Google, and now they're getting 0. Like,
it's real. Yeah,
it's real. That's crazy. Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. That's great information. And I really hope, again, I did the real estate thing for a little bit. I have some friends that are agents, but now I know there's some bad ones out there that are giving others a bad name. So hopefully, hopefully with the market the way it is and where it's going, that it's going to flesh some of those out.
It will,
as Jeremy was saying, so, but I want to be respectful of your time. Let me see. Wanted to ask you one more thing before we asked, where we can find you and all that kind of stuff. If someone were just getting started into your industry, and maybe we'll kind of stick with just maybe the realtor side, buying and selling, what advice would you give them?
Really make sure it's the right industry for you. Don't, this is a long term. There is so much work that goes into getting things to where you want them to be so that you are enjoying your career. A lot of people think, oh, I love houses and I love talking to people and meeting with people and showing people houses. Well, that's about 1% of the job in the beginning. You're spending 99% of the time trying to figure out how to get that client to want to work with you so that you can go out and show them houses. So having the right expectations, starting off thinking you're just going to make a ton of money and everybody's going to want to work with you because, they like you or because you're friends with them, really step back and go, I've got to figure out a way to be better than the 20 other agents they know that are constantly hitting them up for business and referrals, and all the people they've worked with in the past, and all of the people that say, I'm, the best in this neighborhood, and, they believe it. And now you've got to figure out a way to explain and to then get hired. And the first question people ask is, how long have you been in the business? Well, you got to be ready for that. How do you, answer that? So usually I would say the best advice for a new agent is to really make sure it's the right business for you, and then join a mentor, join a team, work with them, work with their, a lot of times the guys that the people that join my team, they want the leads. Well, I don't want to work with a lot of people that ask about some of my listings or just randomly come across me and don't value a real estate agent. I'm done with that. Right. If they find me out, that's where I want my time to be freed up and kept for people that value and know me or have used me in the past. So those leads, stranger internet leads, go to my teammates. And a lot of teams operate that way. So they can cut their teeth on, a buyer across town that wants to look at 100 homes and maybe never buys. But, that rookie agent like that, you just look at that as education. You're paying whether it's time and money or just time up front to build your clientele, to learn the business, to be able to add value when that person says, hey, I'd love to work with you. What do you have to offer? And so just learning.
Yeah, I agree. Great advice. And, I think patience, you mentioned that earlier, where you're playing the long game, right?
Yeah.
And so that's it. And when I first got started, it was all money. I wanted to make money. I was young. I was early 20s, getting out of college, just got done with baseball. I didn't know, I was going to be a major leaguer. That didn't happen. So now what? And I think playing the long game, it's hard, I think, in your 20s or 30s, whenever, if somebody, new agent wanted to get out there. But I agree with you. I think they gotta love it. Definitely relational. But it is definitely a long game, and you're not going to get 10 clients right off the bat. And you have to be patient, because if you're not patient, then you become desperate. It shows too. Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
And then having nights and weekends to, most of your agents established will not want to work nights and weekends. They won't want to work with, as many buyers as they can, like in the beginning. So you've got to fill that void, right? That was how I got in, got a lot of buyers early on. Really hard to get listings the first couple of years. Got a lot of buyers though. They wanted to see stuff the second it hit the market, and I was all up for it. I didn't have kids. I didn't have any obligations. So I dropped what I was doing, showed it to them, showed them 10 others, encouraged them to see more and more and more houses. Whereas certain agents are like, sign this contract. Here's what you're going to pay. Here's what you're going to need. I won't work with you if you don't do this. And it's like, oh man, that's not right for a buyer either. So there's a place for new agents. Just be hungry and be available and answer your phone, for crying out loud. Part of why I hate spam calls is because I always answer my phone. I literally drop what I'm doing. I might be a lot of times I'm in the middle of something important, but I answer my phone and it stops me. And then it's the sales call and I just get so frustrated. That's why I won't cold call. I just won't, never have. I always have done the opposite, essentially, or not done what they teach you to do. And I think that's refreshing for a lot of people.
Exactly. And there's market for both ways on that.
Exactly.
So, totally agree.
Absolutely.
Well, cool, Joe. All right. Well, hey, I want to be respectful of your time. Where can people find you? Websites, all that?
Yeah. mnpropertygroup.com is like, the main website. I do have a lot of different websites out there for a lot of, things related to real estate and information, but that's the easiest. And so most of my social media handles are, at MN Property Group on Instagram, all of the main ones,
all the good ones. Yeah.
Yeah. So
cool. All right, Joe. Well, thank you for your time today. Any other parting thoughts?
Well, just, call me if you have questions about the industry. I'm passionate about helping people choose their first career wisely, because I'm lucky to have done that, and it's benefited me in so many different ways. It's a bummer when you go to med school and you do all of that and you realize, like, this isn't the career for me. Like, oh my gosh, can you imagine? So I'm just about, like, I want people I genuinely love helping good people that come at it, from a good place. Like, love to help those people. Somebody that just wants, and, is all about just trying to, I don't know, all about themselves. Call somebody else. But if you're a good person and you're going to return the favor to somebody else down the road, I'd love to share, and help you. So
very cool. Well, thanks, Joe. Thanks for your time here today.
All right. Have a good one. Appreciate it.
All right. Stay on real quick.